Right before college graduation, Chloe Davis broke my heart. She didn't just break up with me. She vanished, leaving a crater where our future was supposed to be. 3 years later, I was back in Chicago for a college reunion, and there she was, sitting right next to Alex Vance, the guy who'd relentlessly chased her all through senior year. Alex draped his arm around Chloe, his eyes locking on me with a smug challenge. Some guys just can't punch above their weight. You should be thanking me you even got into a place like this. Know your place, man. Stay away from my girl. His girl. Is that so? I asked, a cool smile playing on my lips. Funny, I didn't think I needed anyone's permission to have dinner at my own hotel. It was my third day back in the States. The invitation to the reunion had been sitting in my inbox, and as soon as I confirmed Chloe would be there, I knew I had to go. I just had to see her again. Before leaving, I changed into a tailored black suit and a silk tie, combing my hair back until it was perfect. Chloe had always said I looked distinguished in a suit. And then I saw her. After 3 long years, there she was. But Alex Vance was sitting beside her. So, they'd gotten together after graduation after all. I quietly found an empty seat, my mind a million miles away as I exchanged hollow greetings with old classmates. Liam, my man. Alex raised his glass, his voice dripping with false sincerity. Here's to you. Thanks for taking such good care of Chloe for me back in college. Don't mention it, I said, meeting his gaze. I would have done the same for anyone. I lifted my glass of red wine and drained it in one go. The cold liquid slid down my throat, chilling me all the way to my core. After sitting back down, Alex threw his arm over the back of Chloe's chair, his hand landing on her shoulder. I saw her brow furrow for a split second before she reached for a serving spoon, the movement conveniently shrugging off his touch. Hey everyone, thanks for coming out to celebrate me and Chloe. Alex announced loudly. My uncle is on the board of this hotel group. Seriously, order whatever you want. It's all on me. Hearing that, I paused, looking up at him with genuine confusion. Whoa, thanks Alex. I heard the chefs here are all flown in from Italy. For real? Let's try the truffle pasta. My dad brought his clients here last month. This place is crazy expensive. Wait, are you guys missing the point? The CEO of the Hayes Group is Alex's uncle. Alex grinned. Yeah, well, Mr. Hayes is a distant relative of my family. A distant relative? Now I was even more baffled. Just then, a classmate turned to me. Hey, Liam, your last name is Hayes, too. Any relation to the CEO? Alex let out a condescending laugh. Not everyone named Hayes is connected to the Hayes Group. If that were the case, they'd have half the city claiming to be family. Beside him, Chloe's expression grew colder, her brow furrowing again. No, I said, shaking my head. The CEO of the Hayes Group and I are definitely not distant relatives. See? I told you, Alex said, a fake smile plastered on his face. A massive company like that isn't something any random nobody can latch onto. Right, Liam? I just shrugged. You're absolutely right. Then, I lowered my head and started typing out a text. A few minutes later, the hotel manager appeared at the door, followed by an older man in an impeccable suit. My father. Alex shot up from his seat and rushed over, bowing slightly as he extended both hands with an almost comical eagerness. Mr. Hayes, sir, what brings you here? My father glanced at him, completely ignoring the offered handshake. His tone was polite but distant. I'm sorry you are. Mr. Hayes, sir. Alex stammered, his face flushing. I'm Mark Vance's son, Alex. You could just call me Alex. My father nodded slowly, then his eyes found me, and a warm smile spread across his face. Liam mentioned you were all having a reunion tonight. I had them send up a couple of good bottles. Liam. Alex's face went pale, his voice cracking. Liam Hayes. That's right. Liam is my son, my father said, his gaze sweeping over the table. I want to thank all of you for looking out for him during college. As soon as the words left his mouth, Alex's smile froze, his face turning a blotchy red. The rest of the table filled the awkward silence with polite murmurs about looking out for each other as friends. Well, I won't disturb you young people any longer, my dad said. This dinner is on Liam. And on me. He turned to the manager and told him to send up the kitchen's signature dishes. Before he left, he looked at me. Liam, make sure your friends have a good time. Don't worry, Dad, I replied with a small smile. After he was gone, Alex shuffled back to his seat, utterly deflated. Dude, Liam, you were holding out on us. Seriously, for years as roommates, and you never said a word. So all that ramen you ate was just for the starving artist experience. Turns out you weren't the random nobody, you were the actual trust fund kid. With every comment, Alex's face fell further. Muttering something about the restroom, he practically fled the room. That's when someone trying to stir the pot asked, Chloe, you and Liam were so serious back then. Everyone thought you'd get married right after graduation. What happened? Yeah, really, another chimed in, and then you end up with whatever Alex is. Chloe calmly sipped her soup before answering, her voice frustratingly neutral. We were young. It's all in the past. Her casual dismissal sent a sharp pang through my chest. Not want to dwell on it, I raised my glass. Hey, it's great to see everyone. To old times. As the party wound down, people started trickling out. I finished my wine, grabbed my suit jacket, and said my goodbyes, heading out alone. Alex was standing by the entrance with a few of his old dorm mates. He deliberately looked away, pretending not to see me. But then, as if a thought struck him, he spun back around. Liam, how are you getting home? Before I could answer, he continued with a smirk. I could have Chloe give you a ride. He stressed the word I, looking at me with triumphant eyes. I lit a cigarette and smiled back. No thanks. My dad's driver is picking me up. Just then, Chloe's car pulled up to the curb. Through the half-open window, her profile was as beautiful as I remembered. I was about to turn and leave when Alex's voice, now laced with spite, stopped me. So what if you have a rich dad? She still dumped you. I shot him a look, but before I could say anything, Chloe's voice cut through the air, sharp with annoyance. Alex, that's enough. I have to go. The words were barely out before her car sped off, disappearing into the night. Chloe. Alex stared after her, his expression crumbling. His friends moved in to console him. Maybe she really had something to do, man. Let's just grab an Uber. Yeah, I'll call one now. I chuckled. Looks like your ride left without you. You sure you don't need me to give you a lift? See ya. Back in my apartment, I was on the phone with my best friend, Ben, while making some tea. Dude, Alex Vance is a joke. Ben roared with laughter. First he tries to be the other guy. Now he's trying to claim your dad as a long-lost uncle. That's hilarious. You have no idea, I said. He was all over Chloe the second I left the country. I'd broken up with Chloe, so technically, who she saw was none of my business. And yet, when did they get together? I asked, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. That's the thing, I don't know, Ben said thoughtfully. Our circle isn't that big. I never heard anything about them being a couple. Thinking back to Chloe's attitude toward Alex tonight, it was hardly that of a loving girlfriend. Maybe it's a new thing, I conceded. After all, she hadn't corrected Alex when he'd staked his claim at the reunion. Back then, just before graduation, Chloe had broken up with me without any warning. It was so sudden, so final, that the day after our last exam, I was on a plane out of the country, leaving the heartbreak behind. The pandemic hit, and I didn't come back once in 3 years. I knew we were bound to run into each other eventually, but I never thought the second time would come so fast. On Monday, I started my new job as creative director at a firm I'd lined up before moving back. My assistant informed me that I had a kickoff meeting for a new project at the client's office. Liam, this is the president of the company, Ms. Davis. She'll be the final approver on this project. The moment I saw Chloe, it felt like all the blood in my body turned to ice. So, the cliches you see in movies could actually happen. At the reunion, I could choose not to look at her. Here, I had no choice but to meet her gaze. Chloe was dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, a pair of black-framed glasses giving her an air of professional elegance. Her eyes, calm as a still lake, met mine. Hello, Mr. Hayes. A pleasure to be working with you. She extended her hand. For a second, I just stared at it, a sharp, aching pang twisting in my chest. Taking a deep breath, I schooled my features into a mask of polite professionalism. Ms. Davis, a pleasure. I look forward to your guidance. I took her hand, the same small hand I used to hold as we walked through city streets, through 4 seasons of our lives. But the hand that was once soft and warm now felt bonier, almost sharp against mine. Chloe, she'd lost weight. Over the next few days, our interactions were strictly business. A series of meetings to hash out the details of the new partnership. Nothing more. Well, that wasn't entirely true. During those meetings, my mind would occasionally drift. I'd find myself staring at her face, at the focused intensity in her eyes, and 1,000 memories would flood back. She caught me twice. Before I could decipher the look in her eyes, I quickly looked down, pretending to jot down notes. Chloe was my first love, my North Star. She had been a part of me for 4 years, etched into my very being. How could I ever just let that go? The project hit a critical phase. I did one last check of the data, and when I finally looked up, it was already past 9. Walking out of the office building, I saw that it had started to snow. I tilted my head back, watching the flakes drift lazily down through the warm, yellow glow of the streetlights. They looked like scattered stardust, beautiful and unreal. I held out my hand. The moment the first snowflake landed on my palm, it was like a switch flipped in my memory. My mind became a movie reel, flashing through scenes until it landed on one particular winter night. After a late study session, Chloe and I were walking hand in hand across the campus quad. "Chloe, it's snowing," I'd said, stopping in my tracks. She looked up, her eyes wide with delight. "It is. It's really snowing." Snow was a rare treat in our college town, which made it feel all the more precious. Even though the flurries were light, she reached out her hands to catch them, giddy with excitement. I watched her, my heart full. Her eyes reflected the tiny, glittering lights of the campus, a gentle smile playing on her lips, a smile filled with a deep, tender love. The memory froze on that frame, her smiling, and me looking down, watching her smile. I thought, if someone had taken a picture of that moment, it would have been perfect. As if some benevolent god had heard my thoughts, I saw her. Chloe was walking toward me, unhurried. She'd changed out of her business suit and was now wearing a black wool coat and an oatmeal-colored knit scarf. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" Maybe it was the magic of the night, but her name slipped out, full of an excitement I couldn't contain. "Just passing by. Are you just getting off work?" she asked, stopping in front of me. The street light above cast a warm halo around her, softening her already gentle features. The moment felt like a dream. I stared at her for a couple of seconds before forcing my eyes away. "Yeah, late night. I'm heading to that mall near your apartment. We can walk together." I looked up, and my breath caught as I fell into the amber depths of her eyes. In that instant, I understood what it meant to feel like a lifetime had passed. Time had reshaped us both, and the vibrant, playful girl I once knew had finally merged with the graceful, serene woman standing before me. I fought to push down the ache in my chest. Taking a deep breath, I tried to sound calm, but my voice came out hoarse, tinged with an inexplicable hint of old hurt. "You still remember where I live?" Chloe reached out and gently brushed the snow from my shoulder. "Yes, I remember. Let's go." It must have been the snow, the hazy glow of the streetlights, the perfect, quiet atmosphere. Because in that moment, in Chloe's eyes, I saw a flicker of the same tenderness I remembered, familiar and yet so distant. I couldn't help it. I broke the silence first. "Have you been okay these past 3 years?" "I've been all right. Work keeps me busy." "And you and Alex?" Before I could finish, she knew what I was asking. "We're not together. Helping him out at the reunion was just me repaying a favor." My heart hammered against my ribs, a sudden, buoyant joy rising within me. "Liam, I'm sorry," she said softly. "I handled things badly back then." Hearing her apologize again brought back the familiar ache. "So why? Why did you suddenly break up with me?" Chloe was silent for a long moment before she answered, her voice gentle. "I still can't explain it to you." She sighed lightly. "But there was no misunderstanding, and I didn't fall for someone else." I opened my mouth, hesitated, and then closed it. I didn't press her. Just then, 2 college-age girls ran up to us. One of them held out a photograph, explaining they were amateur street photographers. They'd seen us walking in the snow and thought it was a beautiful scene, so they'd snapped a picture. After thanking them, Chloe took the photo, and I leaned in to look. Against the backdrop of city traffic and neon lights, tiny snowflakes dusted our hair and shoulders. In the photo, she was looking up at me, her face delicate and lovely. I was a head taller, my hands in the pockets of my own black coat, leaning down to say something to her. It really was a beautiful picture. "That's a great shot," I said tentatively. "Do you want it?" "Yes. I'll have my assistant make a copy for you tomorrow and send it to your office, if that's okay." As she spoke, she tucked the photo into her purse. "Okay." I couldn't stop myself. I reached up and gently ruffled her hair. A small smile curved at her lips. In that warm, quiet moment, it felt like a trick, a beautiful illusion that we were still in college, still deeply in love. "We should go," she said, her voice pulling me back to reality. "The mall will be closing soon." My apartment was only a 10-minute walk from the office, but that night, the journey felt impossibly long. Long enough to feel like a lifetime. A few days later, I finished a meeting at Chloe's company well past lunchtime. I was waiting for the elevator to go grab a bite. Ding! The doors opened, and Alex Vance stepped out, holding a thermos. His face darkened the second he saw me. "What are you doing here?" I hadn't eaten breakfast, and I was in no mood for his nonsense. I moved to step into the elevator, but he blocked my way. "Don't play dumb, Liam. Why are you at Chloe's company?" he demanded, his voice full of arrogance. I held up the visitor's badge, hanging from my neck. "Are you blind?" "I'm working." "You're like a damn ghost you can't get rid of," he seethed. "Stay away from Chloe." I stayed 10,000 miles away from her, and you still didn't manage to win her over, did you? My retort must have hit nerve. He sputtered, You You. His face contorting with rage. Oh, by the way, I added, glancing at the thermos in his hand. Last time I was here, I think I saw Chloe dumping the contents of a lunch container just like that one into the trash. With that, I stepped into the elevator and pressed the closed door button, leaving him standing there, his face a mask of fury. After lunch, I deliberately waited until the afternoon rush was over to head back upstairs, hoping to avoid another run-in with Alex. But as fate would have it, when the elevator doors opened this time, Chloe was standing inside. I shuffled in with a few other people, and the crowd pushed me right next to her. The space was tight, so I angled my body slightly to give her some room. I could smell her perfume, a light, fresh scent of daisies. Not too strong, not too distant. Her breath warmed the side of my neck. I subconsciously reached up to loosen my tie, my throat suddenly dry. When I glanced down, I saw a blush creeping up her cheeks, and the tips of her ears were so red they looked like they might burst. My own palms were slick with sweat, my heart pounding like a teenager's on a first date. The atmosphere was thick with an awkward, charged energy. Just as the tension became unbearable, the elevator arrived at my floor. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding and took a long stride out into the hallway. Back in my office, I texted Ben. She still blushes just as easily as she did in college. Dude, just get back together already, he replied instantly. I still don't even know why we broke up. You think that's possible? So what's her big secret? It's obvious she's still into you. Yeah, what was her big secret? I had no idea either. That evening, Ben and I were having dinner at River Loft when I saw Alex walk in with Chloe's cousin, Caleb. Great, here comes Mr. Phony, Ben muttered with disgust. I'm not surprised to see Alex, I said, puzzled. But what's he doing with Chloe's cousin? Maybe he's trying to get to Chloe through him. You know, that actually makes sense. Caleb is her only cousin, and they've been super close since they were kids. As we were talking, Alex and Caleb came upstairs. Caleb spotted me first. Liam, oh man, when did you get back? Why didn't Chloe tell me? Caleb was 2 years younger than us and had ended up at the same university. He'd always called me his brother-in-law, and we'd gotten along great. After the breakup, though, we'd lost touch. Been back for about a month. It's been crazy with work, haven't had a chance to catch up with anyone. I'm sure he's been busy. Alex sneered, cutting in. Busy hanging around your cousin's office. Ben put down his chopsticks. What's your problem, Vance? Liam's company is a business partner. It's professional. Huh. No matter how much he tries to hang around, it's never going to happen between them again. Alex said, looking at me with pure provocation. I said nothing, just took a calm sip of my tea. You don't believe me? Do you even know why you two broke up? It's because... Alex, shut your damn mouth. Caleb interrupted, his voice laced with panic. I looked at Caleb's frantic expression, and a cold sense of dread started to creep into my own gut. Because why? Go on, say it. Ben egged him on, loving the drama. Alex stared directly at me, his eyes filled with a cruel, triumphant glint. Because the sight of you makes Chloe's mother lose her mind. You two can never, ever be together. What? Alex's words hit me like a physical blow. I felt frozen, a deafening roar filling my ears. Alex, are you done? Caleb grabbed Alex by the arm and started dragging him away. As I left, he looked back at me. Liam, I'm so sorry. I'll explain later. What the hell did that jackass mean? Ben asked, looking as stunned as I felt. Hey, Liam. He waved a hand in front of my face. I snapped back to reality. What did you say? I asked what he meant, Ben said, his voice now laced with concern. But I guess you don't know either. I nodded numbly. No, let's go. On the way home, my mind was a chaotic mess, Alex's words echoing on a loop. I'd never even met Chloe's mom. Why would the sight of me make her lose her mind? It sounded insane. What was going on? I collapsed on my sofa, feeling completely drained. A notification pinged on my phone. It was Caleb. Our last chat history was a simple Happy New Year from years ago. Caleb, Liam, I'm so sorry. I promised Chloe I wouldn't say anything about what happened. It's complicated. Before I could even type a reply, more messages came through. Caleb, she never got over you, man. You probably don't know this, but almost all of her social media handles are about you. The letter L. You know what that means, right? Ed, when we first got together, Chloe had stayed up all night to cross-stitch a little charm for my phone. In the bottom corner, she'd stitched a single letter, L. The first letter of both our last names. She'd told me it stood for us, and that one day, our wedding invitations would have an L on them. For 4 years, every design project she signed with an L. No one else knew. They just assumed it stood for her first name. Caleb's words churned up a storm of emotions inside me. Sweet, sour, bitter, everything all at once. Me. Caleb, can you please tell me what Alex meant? My hands were shaking as I typed. I lit a cigarette to steady my nerves. Caleb sent a sighing emoji first. Caleb, don't blame Chloe for this. In a way, she was trying to protect you. He explained that the week before graduation, when Chloe had taken that sudden leave of absence, it was because her mother's trauma-induced psychosis had flared up, and the trigger had been me. Chloe had been planning to take me home to meet her mom. She told her mother my name, age, and other basic info, and sent her a photo of me. The moment her mom saw it, she had a complete breakdown. Chloe had no choice but to rush home. Me, but why? Why would that trigger it? Caleb, do you remember back in sophomore year when my uncle, Chloe's dad, died in that car accident? There was someone else in the car with him. His mistress. Caleb, my aunt couldn't handle it. She collapsed on the spot. When she woke up, she wasn't herself anymore. The doctors diagnosed her with severe PTSD with psychotic episodes. I still didn't understand what any of this had to do with me. Then, Caleb's next message hit me like a ton of bricks. Caleb, the woman he was having an affair with, was your mother. Caleb, Chloe spent the last few years taking my aunt to doctors all over the world, but nothing's helped. They say it's a wound of the heart, and only the heart can heal it. The information was overwhelming. I just sat there, stunned for I don't know how long. It felt like a giant hand was squeezing my heart, so tight I could barely breathe. When I was a kid, my dad wasn't the successful man he is now. After a series of failed business ventures left him deep in debt, my mom divorced him and left Chicago. She never came back. Over the years, the only news I ever got of her came in fragments from my grandmother. I'd heard about the car accident our sophomore year, that 3 people had died, and she was one of them. Honestly, I hadn't felt much. She'd never contacted me after she left, not once. To hear about her again like this, in such a sordid, unbelievable way, a bitter ache spread through my chest. They say real men don't cry, but I couldn't stop the tears from falling, splashing onto the back of my hand. After Chloe and I broke up, I had deleted every trace of her from my life. But because of the project, I had her phone number. We just hadn't crossed the line of adding each other on any social media. An idea sparked. I scrubbed the tears from my face, opened my contacts, and typed Chloe's number into the search bar of my Messenger app. Her profile popped up. The username was a single, capital letter, L. Her status read, "But the stars will always shine." My vision blurred. I took a moment to compose myself, then remembered how we used to share a pair of earbuds, listening to music for hours. I opened Spotify and typed L into the search. A few profiles came up, but I knew hers instantly. Her profile picture was the photo from the other night, of the 2 of us in the snow. I clicked on her profile. It was private, no followers or following. She had only one liked song, "These Midnight Hours" by the Winter Embers, and only one playlist. It was named Liam. I fumbled for the pack of cigarettes, my hands trembling as I lit one and took a deep drag. I put "These Midnight Hours" on repeat. As the lyrics filled the silent apartment, I smoked one cigarette after another. I don't know how much time passed before I finally fell asleep on the sofa. It was a restless sleep filled with dreams of Chloe. Chloe sneaking me candy after class. Chloe giving me the best pieces of meat from her plate at the dining hall. Chloe gently blowing on my sprained ankle after a basketball game. Chloe sleeping peacefully on my shoulder on a crowded city bus. At the end of the dream, she disappeared. My calls went unanswered, my texts unread. No one had seen her. Just as a full-blown panic set in, a knock at the door pulled me from the nightmare. I opened my groggy eyes, for a moment unsure if I was still dreaming. But the knocking persisted, grounding me in reality. Who could be this late? I looked through the peephole and saw Chloe, her face etched with anxiety. I threw the door open. The moment she saw me, her eyes became faucets, tears streaming down her face. My hands, which had been hanging at my sides, clenched into fists, then relaxed. Slowly, hesitantly, I lifted one and touched her cheek. "Chloe, don't cry. It breaks my heart. Caleb, he told you everything, didn't he?" she sobbed. I nodded, gently wiping away her tears with my thumb. She collapsed into my arms, crying so hard she could barely breathe. My body went rigid for a second before my arms wrapped around her, holding her so tightly it was as if I was trying to merge her into me. That night, Chloe curled up in my arms like an octopus, clinging to me. I held her, possessed by a fierce desire to protect her for the rest of my life. "Liam, I didn't tell you the reason back then because I didn't know how," she whispered into my chest. "I'm sorry. At the time, breaking up seemed like the only thing I could do. My dad was always busy, always gone. My mom was the one who raised me, so I tightened my embrace. I know, Chloe. I get it. I understand all of it. If I had been in her shoes, I wouldn't have known what to do either." Sometime during the night, Chloe fell asleep. It wasn't a peaceful rest. She would twitch and hold on to me tighter in her sleep. I, on the other hand, barely slept a wink. I just watched her, my eyes tracing the lines of her brows, her eyes, her nose, her lips, try to commit every detail of her to memory. The next morning, I woke up and she was gone. My heart sank. As I sat on the edge of the bed, lost in a daze, the bedroom door opened and she walked in. "You're awake?" She came over to the bed and held out her hand. "Come on, get washed up. I made breakfast." When I came out of the bathroom, I saw fried eggs and a bowl of oatmeal on the table. A dull ache started in my chest. I sat down across from her and began to eat. I've always loved my eggs fried over easy with a splash of soy sauce at the end. She'd made them perfectly. The first rays of morning sun streamed through the window, warming my face. I closed my eyes, the light turning into a soft glow behind my eyelids. I wished, with everything I had, that this moment could last forever. When I opened them again, Chloe was watching me, her smile so tender, her eyes full of love so deep it was almost overwhelming. "I already called your boss and told him you're taking the day off," she said, taking a bite of her oatmeal. "We're going to have a real Christmas." I'd completely forgotten it was Christmas Day. I suddenly remembered our sophomore year, when we'd gone to a festival by the lake and made wishes at the Buckingham Fountain. "Do you remember that Christmas we made wishes at the fountain?" "I remember," she said with a soft, bashful smile. "I told you that if you made a wish, it would definitely come true. I made you do it with me." She looked at me. "What did you wish for? Did it come true?" I looked at her, a profound sadness clouding my eyes. It can't come true anymore. My heart felt like it had been struck by a hammer, a dull, heavy pain. A shadow of sorrow crossed Chloe's face. "My wish was probably the same as yours," she said quietly. "It can't come true either." After breakfast, I drove us to a small church in the suburb she knew of. It was a weekday, so it wasn't crowded. The church was modest but beautiful, with 2 floors and Baroque-style windows that cast mystical colors across the room. Under a magnificent European chandelier, I couldn't help but think how romantic a wedding would be here. We sat in a vintage red pew at the back. An usher handed everyone a small booklet with Bible verses and hymn lyrics. We read along, sang along. I'm not a religious person, but in the few seconds we spent with our eyes closed in prayer, I prayed with all my heart. "Chloe, the love of my life, please be safe and happy." From the church, we went to our old college campus. We walked hand in hand through the library, the athletic fields, the small park where we used to sit for hours. When we got to the little strip of eateries just off campus, Chloe led me to a noodle shop she used to love. It was after the lunch rush, so the place was nearly empty. The owner, a cheerful middle-aged woman, saw Chloe and her face lit up. "Chloe, sweetie, you're here." Then her eyes landed on me. She froze for a second before a look of recognition dawned. "Oh my goodness, you're Liam. I haven't seen you in years. You've gotten even more handsome." I was surprised she remembered me and greeted her warmly. We learned that Chloe still came back for noodles every now and then. The first time he came back alone, I even asked about him, the owner said, looking from me to Chloe and back again. She opened her mouth as if to say more, but then thought better of it and went to get our food. She had a good sense of boundaries. The rest of the day felt just like one of our old dates. We went to the mall, saw a movie, and had hot pot for dinner. By some unspoken agreement, neither of us mentioned tomorrow. I admit, I still love Chloe with everything I have. But sitting in that church, reading those verses, I felt a strange sense of release. Some things in life, some people, are just beyond our control. Love isn't always enough. It felt like our lives had already been written, and we were just acting out the script. A hopeless, helpless sense of fate. The project with Chloe's company was wrapping up. I handed in my resignation. My dad had already arranged a position for me at our San Francisco office. Ben saw me off at the airport, handing me a cigarette. "Man, you just got back from overseas. Now you're leaving again." "Hey, it's just San Francisco," I said, cupping my hands to light the cigarette. "You can come visit anytime." You and Chloe, is there really no way?" I shook my head. What else could I do? Even if her mom gets better, I can't change the fact that my mother is my mother. She was her father's mistress. If I were Chloe's mom, I wouldn't be able to accept it either. A cold wind whipped through the departures hall, chilling me to the bone, making my eyes sting. "You two are more dramatic than a soap opera," Ben said, blowing a smoke ring. "But hey, have you actually confirmed any of this? What if it's all a misunderstanding?" I looked up sharply. Ben's words cut through the fog of my grief. My heart pounded in my chest as I waited for Chloe to pick up the phone. "Hello." Her clear voice came through the line. "CH Chloe," I stammered, choosing my words carefully. "The person who was in the car accident with your dad. What was her name?" This was the line. "CH Chloe," I stammered, choosing my words carefully. "The person who was in the car accident with your With your dad. What was her name? There was a long pause on the other end. Isabel, she finally said. Isabel Rossi. Holy crap. That wasn't my mother's name. I was so excited I slapped Ben hard on the back. Chloe, listen to me. My mom, her name. I was practically babbling. Chloe, it's a misunderstanding. A huge mistake. My mom's name wasn't Isabel Rossi. It was Sarah Miller. After getting more details from Chloe, I called my grandmother. Piece by piece, we finally unraveled the source of the devastating mix-up. Yes, my mother had been one of 3 people who died in that crash. But she had been driving alone when her car collided with the one carrying Chloe's father and Isabel Rossi. The terrible coincidence was that Isabel Rossi's estranged husband also had the last name Hayes. And, apparently, I bore a slight resemblance to Isabel. When Chloe had told her mother she was dating me, her mom had been thrilled at first. But when she saw my picture and learned my last name was Hayes, her traumatized mind, prone to memory distortion, jumped to the worst possible conclusion. She became convinced that I was the son of her husband's mistress. I canceled my flight and dragged Ben toward the airport parking garage. Ben, pinch me, I said, still feeling like I was in a dream as I got into his car. Get a grip, man, he laughed, shaking his head. When we got to Chloe's office building, she was already waiting outside. The north wind tousled her hair and turned the tip of her nose red. I got out of the car and rushed over, pulling her into a fierce hug. Liam, does this mean we can be together? She asked, her hands clutching the front of my coat as she looked up at me, her eyes shimmering with tears. Yes, Chloe, I said, my voice thick with emotion. We're never going to be apart again. I held her tighter, as if trying to fuse her to me, to make up for the 1,000 days and nights we had lost. Maybe the place wasn't right, maybe the timing was all wrong, and I was completely unprepared. But I couldn't wait another second. Chloe, marry me. She wrapped her arms around my waist and nuzzled into my chest like a kitten. Yes, she whispered, her voice still thick from crying. The next day, gifts in hand, I went to visit Chloe's mother. Mrs. Davis, Chloe told you about the misunderstanding, right? She was thinner than I had imagined, but her eyes were clear. After sending Chloe out of the room, she turned to me. Liam, I need to apologize to you. It's okay, ma'am. I understand. She waved a hand dismissively. You know what her family has been through. Chloe is my most precious daughter. I don't want her to go through what I did. I understood her fear completely. Mrs. Davis, please, rest assured, I said, meeting her gaze. I will never let Chloe down. My own family was broken. More than anything, I want a whole complete family of my own. And Chloe is the only person I want to build that family with. She nodded slowly. Marriage isn't a game. When a novelty wears off, can you still promise not to fail her? Novelty fades, I said, my voice firm and clear. But responsibility and character don't. They're part of who I am. I took a breath, looking her straight in the eye. What I mean is I give you my word. I will always love Chloe. Leaving her house, Chloe and I walked side by side down the street. I took her hand and tucked it, along with mine, into the warm pocket of my overcoat. The sky had once again begun to release a gentle flurry of snow. Chloe always loved the snow. Whenever it snowed, she would light up, her eyes sparkling like the stars in the Milky Way as she called my name. Liam, it's snowing. To share this first snow with her today, and a lifetime of them together,